Right, so I've been just thinking about this recently, okay? Because I'm a big fan of Level 5, right? They're a Japanese game development company. They've developed Yokai Watch, Professor Layton, and the reason I like their games, Inazuma 11. But there's a major issue with Level 5 that's cropped up in recent years that I honestly didn't realize until recently, actually, until I went looking into it a little bit. I knew about it in the Inazuma space, but I didn't realize it was something that applied to all their games. So I just wanted to talk about this problem and three or so possible solutions to how we're going to solve the issue. First of all, what is the problem? There's a few of them right now, but they all kind of stem from the idea that the American branch of Level 5 has been shut down, which means all American localizations have also been shut down. Now, if you're from Europe like myself, you might be thinking, well, that doesn't matter because we'll still get European localizations. But in all the articles and reports I read, although they all mentioned the Western branch shutting down, which would imply Europe as well. But also they never mentioned Europe still going, and it's reported that Europe doesn't get localizations either. So we're kind of being affected by this as well because we're not getting localizations either. Think of it this way. Level 5 have not localized a lot of their games recently. Now I will say a lot of them have been Yokai Watch spin-off games that have only got Japanese releases, but there hasn't been a lot of games to be localized. Now I went up far enough to like 2018, I think, was as far as I went, and none of those games were localized. Most of them were Yokai Watch spin-offs, but none of them were localized for Europe or any English-speaking country. Now I'm pretty sure they got Spanish and Italian releases, or Portuguese, one or the other, but no English releases for the UK, Ireland, any English-speaking countries in Europe. Like no Spain English release, no Portuguese English release, none of that. And why is this an issue for me personally? Well, you see, there's a game coming out soon, or well, in the next 2 years, called Inazuma 11 Great Road of Heroes, right? And it's the first ever Inazuma 11 Nintendo Switch game. And although it's in pretty rough shape right now due to an entirely separate issue which we'll also talk about later on down the line in this, it's coming out in 2023. And usually we'd have to wait about 2 years for localization. But you see, with even before their localization team shut down, or American branch shut down, because of some core difficulties in Germany, we didn't get the latest Inazuma 11 game localized either, which was Go Galaxy. And unfortunately, I'm worried that it might become a trend because I don't see many people in the Inazuma 11 community talking about it. Like I'm not sure if like Taylor the Toaster brought this up, but I haven't heard many people talk about the possibility that they may not localize Inazuma 11 Great Road of Heroes at all, because I feel like that's the more likely event to happen at this point, because not many, if any, of their games have been localized to English since 2018, and not to mention their games have had low sales since then. For example, Yokai Watch is the one where I got the most concrete figure, so this is what I'm going to use for this. So this is widely spoken to be why they shut down their Western division or American division. It was because when Yokai Watch released in Japan, it sold 200,000 units on the Switch, 3,000 on the PS4, and then 10,000 for the DLC release for both systems. And that's pretty low, especially compared to, as they said, their competitor of the time, which was Sword and Shield, because they released around similar time frames. Sword and Shield ended up selling 8 times that amount in like one day. So, you know, it wasn't exactly a great release for them, and it didn't sell very well at all. Did not even crack in 1 million, which I don't know if their games do. They probably don't, because they've never been heavily popular. I'm pretty sure anyway, outside of Europe, especially for Inazuma 11. But they didn't crack the numbers they were expecting, right? So they shut down localization. Although they have stated earlier on before the pandemic that they would be localizing the game, but with no English dub, because the English dub actors aren't available and will not be dubbing because they have other projects for the foreseeable future. And we'll get into what that could mean later on. But the high likelihood now is we're not going to get to see any of these localized games, whether it's Great Road of Heroes or Yokai Watch 4. We're not going to see any of these games. Now, I'm not a Yokai Watch fan, I'm not going to pretend to be, but it was just the most widely available figures to tell you why they've decided not to play their games. Also, the latest Professor Layton didn't sell very well in Japan either, but I didn't get figures for that game. And my issue is, as I said before, in all this discussion about the Western division or the American division, it was never brought up that the European division would still be localizing for Europe. And even if it was, think about it this way. Well, I'm going to use the animes they have, for example, here, right? They localized the anime of Inazuma 11 Go Galaxy, which was the game they didn't localize as a video game, but they localized the anime for Portuguese audiences. I did a bit of research, but I didn't research exactly what dubs were, but I know they were two non-English speaking dubs. I am pretty sure it was Portuguese and Finnish dubs. It could have been Italian and Finnish. I know Finnish was one of them, but point still stands though. Even if there was a mention of the European division, we don't even know if that would be the UK and other English-speaking regions, you know? Like Wales, Scotland, Ireland. It's just England, Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland and Ireland that are English-speaking as far as I know. Obviously there are other countries that speak the English language, but they also have their own language. So there's a high possibility that we won't get an English release, even in Europe, for Inazuma 11 Great Road of Heroes. And that deeply saddens me, right? Because if you think about it, this is a primarily Nintendo franchise about the biggest sport in the world, right? And I don't think there's any argument to this, because it's such a universal language. No matter where you go, as long as you're wearing a football jersey or anything that has to do with football, someone's gonna point it out. I was on holidays not the other day, but a few months ago, and I was in a lift, right? And anyone who is in Europe or has lived in Europe for any amount of time will know you don't speak to people in lifts at all. You just stay fucking quiet and don't speak, right? You don't say anything unless it's like, oh sorry, I'll open the door for you or something like that, right? So when you see someone with a football jersey, it's like, it's the only time where you'll see people being like, oh hey yeah, did you see the match last night? And you'll start talking about football. It's such a universal language. No matter where you go, people start talking about it no matter where it is. So to not have, obviously this isn't to not have this game is very disheartening, because for a lot of people in Europe, and especially in other European countries that weren't the UK and Ireland specifically, it was actually a very popular franchise with a very popular TV anime. But it's based on the best sport in the world and the most popular sport in the world, and to see it not get a release is quite sad, especially because it had very good RPG mechanics and and very funny as well. If you were into actual football, it was funny as well, because they parody different players like real players, and it was absolutely hilarious. And it also parody other characters. Like, one people like to bring up so often, and actually I was only made aware of recently due to a iceberg video made by Taylor the Toaster, which I will put in the description. They even have a fucking tornado as a playable character. Alright, that's how fucking wacky this game is. But it goes to show, like, I'm just so disappointed, you know, that we probably won't get a localized English release for this. Now, I will say, fair play of the fandom for Inazuma 11, because they finally localized Go Galaxy after years of hard work and effort, which we all appreciate heavily. And it might make it a bit easier for the fans to translate if we have a Spanish release or another European release, because you can get the cartridge a lot more easier. But it's still not great to not have access to it, because I just want things to be straightforward and easy to get to. Now there was a separate issue with Inazuma Great Road of Heroes, besides the shutdown of Level 5's Western Division. Or, sorry, I keep saying Western because that's the article I remember the most, but it was specifically stated in most of the articles I read, the American Division. But there is another issue separate with just the Great Road of Heroes itself, and I don't know if many of you know this, and I'm sure if you actually know the series in Inazuma 11, you probably do. But when they originally started development of this game, it was supposed to come out in 2018 along with the Russian World Cup and the 10th anniversary of the franchise. But unfortunately, because they outsourced all of their development, or the vast majority of their development, to another company who couldn't handle it, who falsely told them they could handle the work, they had to start over. And that's why we're getting this in 2023, but that's not a big issue, I'm not saying that. But what I mean is, with all the effort they put into this game and all the hard work and the restarting, they may just want to cut their losses and forget about the European division altogether. Unless this sells gangbusters and Nintendo and Sony want them to bring it over to the West. And you know what, I think it's coming out on mobile as well, so that might actually increase our chances, because I know the Japanese audience are big mobile fans, and I'll take a mobile release. I will buy the best phone humanly possible just to play that game. I'll take any. Alright, I just want to play that game. Alright? You know, like, but the issue is, I'm highly suspecting that they'll end up just cutting their losses if it doesn't sell exceptionally well and not making an English release. And I don't think they will anyway, because even Yokai Watch, which I'm pretty sure was a decent success over in the West, didn't eventually stop getting English releases. And as far as I know, there has been no update on the localization for Yokai Watch 4, which is very disappointing for the Yokai Watch fandom, but this video is specifically for Inazuma 11. But Yokai Watch is a big part of their company, and obviously Professor Layton, but I honestly know nothing about Professor Layton, so I have nothing to say on that franchise particularly. But the idea still stands. It's a very worrying situation for fans of these franchises. Now there are a few solutions that I'm hoping happen at some point, because Level 5 is in a lot of trouble, okay? But they're also very trusted development friends for Nintendo. And obviously they moved to do multi-plat recently, but all I'm saying is they've spent so many years in close relations with Nintendo, just like the company that made Luigi's Mansion. Now it isn't selling as well as Luigi's Mansion, but we do know they are in very close relations with Nintendo, and they've been for years. So the only solution I see to this problem is if Nintendo ever either partially owns the company, like puts a large enough stake into it, or completely owns the company, which is more likely. But and then Nintendo, obviously, no matter what their game is, if it sells, I'd say if it sells like 2 copies, it will still get an English release. Obviously that was an exaggeration, I must say, but Nintendo are more likely to translate a game that sells poorly or decently and not great. They'll still translate it. That's what I'm saying. And I would rather this happen. Now, I must say there is a more, like, I'd take option 1 and option 2 together. You know, Nintendo buys Level 5 to save the company, which I think might happen at some point. I'm hoping, I'm praying. Honestly. Like, get rid of the Mario franchise. I don't want that. give me Inazuma instead, Nintendo. Come on. Get Mario Odyssey 2? No. Shift those developers to Inazuma Great Road of Heroes for right now, yeah? I don't even know if that's in development, but as long as you don't shift the next Fire Emblem game development team or the next Xenoblade game, I don't care. Shift any team you need. The Breath of the Wild 2 team? Nah, people would literally kill them if they did that. Not gonna lie. But honestly though, I do love this franchise and I would love to see Nintendo pick it up and give it the support it needs for an English localization. Because I feel like if it was marketed well, it would become a gangbuster hit, especially among the younger generation who are growing up with football now. Because it's a relatively it has some mature themes in it, but they tackle it in a way where it can still be in a low age range. But it's also incredibly comedic and funny for people who are into football and just into, European humor in general. So it works very well in that regard. Plus the fact that anime style video games have increased in popularity over the last couple of years since Inazuma 11 have stopped publishing English games, as shown by the fact that Inazuma YouTube has been growing pretty decently over the past couple of years. And I'd say, alright, we'll go off topic, I'll speak about that later. But Solution 2, what is that? And that's what they're planning to do with Yokai Watch 4, which I don't think they will at this point. It's been so long at this point, I don't think they're going to do it with Yokai Watch 4. But just translate the game. Like, don't get dub voice actors or anything like that. Just translate the game into English, text. Right? I'm sure that doesn't take too long, And that's just something, I'll take it. Bro, just give me the English text. I'll take it. I don't need the dub. You know what I mean? I like the dub. I've watched and played the dub games only for most of my life until Season 3 came out back in the day, and it didn't have an English release for so many years. But I've watched the dub for the rest of that time period, and I love it. I will always love it, alright? But if I have to sacrifice it to get a game easily accessible in my country, I would gladly do that. Because as shown by the Galaxy Go team, as long as the game is translated well, it still has the same effect. I still find Go Galaxy very fun. Not to play myself, I'm still actually getting through Chrono Stones. So I still have a bit to do in that, so I didn't want to play Galaxy yet, plus it didn't have a translation before, and it just got one literally a couple months back. So I'll definitely be down to play that when I get the chance. And much love goes out to that team once again. And yeah, much love goes out to the team. But it shows the game was still very funny, Galaxy, because I am watching a Let's Play so far before I play the game, but the game is still well translated. I've seen footage of the game, and I've seen bits and bobs of the Let's Play that Taylor the Toaster is doing, and it's still a very, very funny game. With the translations are still funny, the gameplay is still solid. Everything about the game is still great, even without the English dub voice actors. So that is option 2. Now option 3 is the least likely, which is if Sony buys them, and I'm not even gonna pertain this option or even think about this option, because Sony would never buy this type of studio at all. I doubt it. They don't want those type of non-realistic type of games in their library, so it's not happening. But it is an option we need to think about at some point. And honestly, I'll take anything now. I just want Inazuma: Great Road to Heroes to get a localization for English-speaking audiences. Even just in Europe, hell, even in America, bro, I would take it. I would go over, and I would take all those games. I would bring over 100. Well, no, I was gonna say €100. That would probably be one copy, but I'll bring over $1,000 and buy 10 copies. Actually, if it was €70, how many copies could I buy? More like 12 copies. Alright, I'll buy 12 copies and just bring them back over. There we go, I'll do that. And then I could, handy enough, I'll take any English translation for any country, because you can just, the Switch is region free, so I can literally just make an American account. So, again, if you do only make an American release, or only make a certain release that Europeans can't get to, but is in English, thank you Nintendo for making the Switch region free. I'll really appreciate it when it happens, and please level 5. No matter in what form or whatever, I really hope you'll take the time to translate Great Out of Heroes into English for English speaking audiences, because we love your franchise. Your franchise has been a big part of my life growing up, and I really enjoyed it. Every day it would come on Kicks. I don't know if anyone remembers Kicks. That was great. And I played the games. I remember playing. I got 2 first, and my little brother got 1. And I remember when I finished 2, I traded him 1 so I could play 1. Because I had watched the anime for 1, but I never played the game 1 until a while later, because I had played 2. I played 2 for like 200 hours. I put so many hours into that game, and I don't have the save anymore because I went back years later and replayed it while watching a Let's Play. But I wish I didn't get rid of that save. I miss it. Firestorm, if anyone's wondering. Great game. And then I got 3 as well. I got Lightning Bolt, and my brother also got Bomb Blast. So, and we did the same thing. Although I'm doing a Lightning Bolt save right now, and I'm building up my best team, because that is probably one of my favorite games. Chrono Stones. I'm really looking forward to getting through that game proper, because it was honestly, and I will say, because I haven't got through a lot of Chrono Stones, no matter how much I'm speaking of this, which was the last English released game, because I only found out about it very, very recently, like a year or 2 ago, when I was reading through a magazine from like 2017 about Chrono Stones. It was one of those school magazines, right? Because my cousin came home with one of his gaming school magazines, you know, those ones, and they had the Chrono Stones release in it, because it wasn't very advertised, which I'm very disappointed about. I realize I'm going way off topic now, but I'm just saying, I really want these games. Level 5 I would really appreciate if we get Inazuma Great Road to Heroes over here in Europe, and for America as well. I'm sure there are a few American fans out there who love this game as well, and it would be much appreciated. And good luck with development. Take your time, as much time as you need, but I just hope eventually we get it, you know. And once again, thank you to the team that fan translated Inazuma 11 Go Galaxy. Much appreciated. We'll finally get to play through this game for the first time, and yeah, it's much appreciated. I'll leave their Twitter account. I'll leave their Twitter account in the description below, along with that iceberg video I was talking about. I really hope I remember this now. I will. I'll put it. I'll make a note of it right now.